This is just going to be a very quick video on why I think that Wiccans are described as fluffy by some of the more unfriendly and less tolerant areas of the pagan community. I don't identify as Wiccan, but I think that some things about my path are very similar to the Wiccan path, and I do have a lot of books on Wicca, and when I was trying to find my way towards the path that I've settled into and appear to be walking comfortably now, Wicca was a big part of that. So, you know, I mean, I have Wicca by Vivian Crowley, I think was a big influence on me, and I have kind of a broad understanding and a healthy understanding of Wiccan belief without actually being Wiccan myself. So I can understand the frustration that Wiccans have about being called fluffy, and I appreciate very much the time that a lot of Wiccan YouTubers take to discuss and go into the generalisations and stereotypes that they recognise that other areas of the pagan community have picked up and obviously are clinging on to. But I can also feel that there must be a personal frustration for Wiccans when it comes to the fact that, you know, they are put under that umbrella and they are unjustifiably being called fluffy when, you know, this person making that attack has little to no knowledge of their path or what they know about it or who they are. It's just a tag that's kind of attached to Wicca, and it must seem very unfair and very frustrating. I think that the main reason that Wicca is considered to be fluffy is because when you walk into a bookshop and you go to the mind, body, spirit section and you have a look under paganism or witchcraft, you are going to hit 50 to 100 books on Wicca and very little on anything else. You know, it is kind of the dominant, the popularised religion when it comes to anything under the pagan umbrella. I think a lot of people think of it as an off-the-shelf religion, and I also think that a lot of pagans think of it perhaps as the easy option. I think that it's assumed naturally that if you're Wiccan, it's because you didn't go any further than the local bookshelf. I think it's assumed that because Wicca is so readily and widely available as a subject, that if you ended up Wiccan, it was because you stopped where you started. You know, you sat down and thought, oh, that's me, then I'll be a Wiccan, and that's as easy as it is. And you didn't actually progress any further. This is a hugely unfair view. Wicca has done bloody well for itself, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, something's got to fill up the shelves. I love tarot, for example, and I know that there is a frustration from a great many people who appreciate or prefer other types of divination to walk into a bookshop and find that they have absolutely nothing to choose from unless they want to learn tarot, because it is just like tarot fascism. Tarot is the big thing, and it's very hard to find anything on anything else. You know, it's kind of got the monopoly. So I understand, you know, from the point of view of a popularist who likes the popular divination method, that obviously it must be a bit of a pain in the arse for other people, but tarot is an awesome little system. So it shouldn't make any apologies for itself for being popular. And Wicca is a very accessible religion. It's a religion that works on a few different levels. It's a religion that I feel is not a watered down version necessarily of one or anything. I think that people that take the books that are available at face value and kind of decide that, oh, it's got a few pages on visualization and a few pages on crystals and that's all I need to know, are missing the point. You know, those books are a starting point for the great beyond, and nothing can teach you faith, nothing can teach you experience. So those books are just going to give you a brief overview, but then only people that really want to embark on the spiritual path will understand that that is just a tiny little bit of the animal, and the rest of it comes from within. So, you know, and I think Annika from Oathbound Secrets actually said something really interesting on this subject. She said that Wiccans being called fluffy is kind of surprising in light of the fact that Christians aren't also kind of pinned with this same kind of label, because obviously there's this whole thing about turning the other cheek and showing love to your fellow brothers, and, you know, thou shalt not kill and all that kind of thing. But I think that inside the Christian community there will be attacks like that. I'm sure there are. These fire and brimstone groups that are really Old Testament probably do have a lot of quite bitchy things to say about the more kind of New Testament, tolerant, love everyone, maybe we should reconsider the hating gays thing, those kinds of Christians. I'm sure the fire and brimstone lot really feel that those kinds of Christians are fluffy. I think it's probably more of an attack that happens on a smaller scale. It's a microcosm, isn't it? Like, paganism is this little world all its own, and within that world, Wicca appears to have been attacked mainly because it's popular and because it's accessible, and so we think we can have this superiority complex and this assumption that if somebody's decided to drop anchor under the Wicca umbrella, then it's clearly because they haven't bothered going out and finding anything else. And I think it's a huge shame, obviously, that it's thought of that way, and I don't think of it that way, but I've always thought that might be the main reason. Also, just as an aside, and I don't know if anybody will think this is crazy or not, but I always feel like there might be a little bit of cultural tension going on because Wicca has really, really popularised itself in the US. There's a forum that I'm on, which is basically UK-based pagan forum, and a lot of people admitted there, this was like a few years ago when there was a discussion about why Wicca has a bad reputation. A lot of pagans admitted there that it might be because it's been so Americanized and because it's become the way that most American pagans identify, and there is kind of like that strange cultural struggle, that tension going on, like the tension between North and South in England kind of thing. There's a kind of resistance there to that, and a desire to distance ourselves from it. And also, as another aside, there are a lot of books for Wiccan teens, which I think is awesome because everybody knows that a lot of people get into the craft young because there's some kind of seed there. I first became interested in spellcraft when I was too young to, it wouldn't have come from anywhere but within, I felt this need to put things in a certain order, purify them, ritualize their context, and make something manifest. That would have only come from in here. And I think a lot of kids feel that way when they first start to identify with the craft, or even just feel their fingers moving towards ingredients and objects and thinking something's going to happen here, or I'm going to manifest my intent. When you start doing that so young, it's so raw, there's no information around, and it's like going it alone. And so obviously books for Wiccan teenagers and young people that are just coming into the fold are really important, and a lot of these books are said to be really supportive, informative, responsible. They're not histrionic and dramatic and scary. They really are genuinely trying to invite young people to come into the fold in a good way, in a way that's not going to be destructive, and in a way that's going to allow them to express their desire to do magic or do ritual or whatever they want to do without allowing them to identify with this more glamorized and scary and dangerous aspect. And I think it also teaches them silence in a way, the kind of silence that's important in the schoolyard, Like, I think it just allows children that feel a certain affinity to come into it in a way that might be a little bit better than it would be if they had no books or no resources or nothing there to kind of grasp onto. So I think that's a really important thing to note, that yeah, all these like fluffy teen Wicca spell books and things might be a little bit uncomfortable for pagans who take their pathway very seriously and feel that kind of thing is frivolous or unnecessary. But it's actually not unnecessary. It's actually very important to make sure there's something there for that kind of age group if they feel themselves start to have this pull towards that kind of path. They need something to make them recognise that it is serious and that it is a spiritual pathway, and it's not just something to be done for dramatic effect. Again, I'm really, really sorry that this is rambly. I am really tired, but I did really want to make these 2 videos tonight, so I'm glad I've done it, but I really do have to just lie down now on the bed in my pyjamas and watch other people's videos, because I've noticed that there's a couple of people who've been on hiatus who've come back, and I'm quite excited about that. And I'm also excited about a few other videos that have been uploaded from various people on YouTube that I love. So I'm just going to get into my pyjamas, get my boyfriend to make me a cup of tea, and that'll be that for this evening because I'm completely shattered. But thank you for listening if you did.